Good evening and welcome to another edition of Soulful Scrutiny. My name is Trish and today we have a special edition of Soulful Scrutiny with Mr. Douglas Defreitas from the island of St. Vincent. Most people know him as Dougie. And we're going to be discussing some issues going on in that island, which is the place of my birth. And some very troubling news coming out of St. Vincent. And so I spoke to Mr. Defreitas a few days ago and decided to do this interview to really get some information from his side of the fence as to what's going on there. Good evening, Dougie. How are you?
Well, I'm nice, great, and wonderful even when it's bad.
And that's a wonderful attitude to have because it's not every day that someone under the tremendous strain that you're under could have that type of outlook at things. So, good afternoon and welcome to Soulful Scrutiny. Now, you don't mind me calling you Dougie?
Dougie?
Yes, okay. So
that's
what everybody calls you. Okay. So, Dougie, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Who are you? And then we'll get into why you are on this program.
Well, I tell you, I'll give you a little insight. I'm born 1953. From experience, my father is Portuguese and my mother is a black woman. I grew up farming and also in business generally. I entered into business many years ago, along with family businesses and so forth. But I was always in the music business. I owned the actual company that I own is BDS Company Limited, which is the owner of Nice Radio. Nice Radio is not the company. The company is BDS Company. It owns the radio station.
Okay.
And it's a communications company involved in sound systems and things like that. We do concerts and sound systems, and we have the radio station, which is part of the whole ambit of the company.
Okay.
Myself, I am a Catholic Christian.
Okay.
I profess the Lord Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And so my faith is very deep within those circumstances. So maybe that's why I have a different disposition.
That's why you're so cheerful in the face of such adversities.
Yeah, because you have to trust God for all things once you know the intent of your heart is in the right direction.
I agree. I wish I could be that cherry. Dougie, the reason that you're on this show is because of some troubling things that are coming out of St. Vincent Grenadines. So, Dougie, I started talking about the election of 2015 on December 9th, where the incumbent, the party that was in power, secured a fourth term, and according to the opposition and supporters, they felt there were a lot of irregularities that rendered the elections not free and fair. The following day, I am told that you were arrested while trying to leave on vacation with your family. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Now, before we go to that, let me just give those new audience members who may be wondering what's going on. St. Vincent the Grenadines have been having we've had some very troubling news coming out of there, political victimization. People's freedom of speech seem to be threatened. Most people feel that is the case. And we have had people who are crying that this is a pending dictatorship, and the fact that people do not seem to be able to protest peacefully without being harassed and arrested. We've had a singer who was there vacationing, and he was arrested while leaving after being on the island for 5 weeks, even though he had been on the island for 5 weeks and nobody arrested him or questioned him about anything. And so what we're seeing, I'm wiping, please excuse my wiping because we're getting some really hot weather here in New York. So if you see me wiping and fanning, I wish I could get some breeze right now. But anyway, so basically this person was arrested while leaving to come back to New York. Not while he entered, not while he was there, but while he was leaving. There have been people who have been arrested and abused by the police for being peaceful protesters. There have been a teacher at one point was pulled out of her classroom in front of students and arrested and in both the singer's case and her case, they were both accused of, in her case, saying something inappropriate on the internet or allegedly insinuating something on the internet. He's alleged to have made some threats on the internet, and he was arrested while he was leaving. In your case, right after the election, you were leaving to join your family in the United States.
No, let me give you the story.
You give me the story.
I had booked because I have a serious spinal back problem. So I had spinal surgery already. And I was on my way with a doctor friend of mine who treats me with acupuncture in St. Lucia. And then I was going to Trinidad and then on to the States. But during the election, as you know, there's a lot of pressure, standing, pending, doing a lot of things because I do all of the sound systems for the New Democratic Party.
That's the opposition.
Yeah,
okay.
Right. I'm like a logistics person, and they contract me to look after the events. I could have hardly stand. My feet were swollen. I could have hardly stand. But knowing that it was election, I had already booked months in advance to leave. But I chose to go to St. Lucia because the doctor who was here operates an office in St. Vincent and one in St. Lucia. And when I called his office, then I need to see him immediately. He said he's going to St. Lucia that day. So I said, well, I have to go to see the surgeon in Trinidad before I go to the States on the Monday. So I had to get into St. Lucia that day, see him, and then go down to Trinidad because my family was coming to Trinidad to meet me to go to the States. But I had to go and see the surgeon. So I was with the doctor sitting in the departure lounge when they came and took me off the plane.
And they took you off the plane, why? What are the allegations?
They said that I made statements that cause fear and alarm.
Okay. What does that mean? Why? Why are they thinking that you did that?
Well, because of, in the heat of elections, people felt disenfranchised because the movement of the election campaign clearly showed that the New Democratic Party were favored to win. And then you had all these discrepancies that popped up within the night, the count, even from the electoral office where they were announcing the results tonight. One of the persons who were in that office on television did say this seat in the Central Ward cannot be won by either party by more than 6 votes. And it was said at one time that Ben Exeter had won those 6 votes. Then that was the last and the smallest constituency, but it was the last to come in. 2 hours or so after everything had finished. And then they suddenly declared that Straker won by 236 votes, or about that approximately.
And Straker is part of the government, of the current administration, the ULP.
Yes.
There's ULP, which is the governing party, and then there's NDP, the opposition. Okay.
Yes, that's how it is. So because on the night, I said to the people, do not allow these ballot boxes to go anywhere other than to the police station. Please follow the ballot boxes. Camp out outside the police station if you want. Basically, I'm not quoting myself right now, I'm just saying what I basically said.
Right, yeah.
That you must, basically guard the ballot boxes to make sure that when they have the recount, there is no hanky-panky business.
Okay.
So
and you said that because what? There was fear that this would happen, that could be happening?
Yes, because people were of the opinion that they would do anything to stay in office. So the next day, I was on the air also.
Because you own, just for the audience, because you own Nice Radio, which is one of the main stations that really go opposite or counter the current government. I mean, we need the media, and your station is the very outspoken.
It is the only dissenting voice in St. Vincent.
So the island has been reduced to the point where you don't even have people contradicting or standing up against the administration, and your station happens to be one of the few stations. Just want to put that out there for the audience.
Not the few.
Not the few. That is the only one?
It's the only
one.
station that stands up for democracy.
Okay.
Not necessarily for the NDP, but for the democracy.
Okay.
So, the morning now, I also encourage persons to go down to Layu and support Ben Exeter during the recount so people know that he has support, because it's the only thing when you are there and then you have to battle with, an incumbent government with charging things and to come out and continue to support Ben Exeter. Also, in North Leeward, I found out, I was speaking to Dougie Defreitas, who was a lawyer for NDP, that it was her loan out there. They had 14 lawyers for the incumbent government, plus later on the supervisor of election. I was also speaking that morning to the issue of the swearing in, that the Prime Minister should not be able to get sworn in until the elections are over. The elections are only over when the recount is taken place and the seats are confirmed.
The lawyer for the opposition was there at Central Leeward, and the supervisor of election was there with about 14 different lawyers, and you then got on the air and take us from there. What happened?
I didn't hear it, because of what
I was saying that you were saying that the next morning the lawyer for the NDP, Vinette Pedrick, was at the Central Leeward location.
No, she was in the North Leeward.
Oh, North Leeward, okay. And there were tons of people there from the other side, from the government side.
Yeah, about 14 lawyers.
Right. And so you take us from there. Right.
Was later on joined by the supervisor of elections after she had finished probably with government house issue. But I don't know the sequence, but I know that there were lots of lawyers there from the ULP, which is the government side, and Vinette was screaming for help too, and so I was on the radio speaking where I know that NDP lawyers probably would be listening to the radio and say, look, Vinette needs help down in North Leeward because she's bombarded with 14 lawyers, and the seats were close. And that is why we knew that something was radically wrong, because in the North Leeward area, the outpouring of support for Patel was so enormous that it looked like a national rally every time he had a meeting. So we found it very strange that he could only win by 7 votes.
Right.
That makes sense.
Wasn't that changed later? Wasn't that changed to 100 and something later?
No, that is he still was there down in the bottom there, because the irregularities were so great. And what has happened is in South Leeward that it was changed from 37 to 137.
Okay, so you want to tell me in North Leeward, where the banana industry has been destroyed and people are suffering, it's basically a neglected zone. You're telling me that the incumbent would have won and would have lost only by 7 votes?
Yes.
Wow.
And that was an impossibility. We knew that. So that raised more concerns. And that's hence the call saying, and Vinette had said to me that the ballot boxes were not properly sealed. As a matter of fact, so basically said they were not sealed properly. So if they're not sealed properly, mean they're not sealed. So I may have said ballot boxes are not sealed. Because if you're supposed to have 4 seals around 4 corners and the center seal, and probably only have 2 or 1 or no center seal for the slot, it means that it's not sealed.
Right.
In my opinion, so I spoke to those things, and so that is how they come up with all these charges against.
So in the middle of an election where information are coming and going, and sometimes it's not 100% on point. Okay, you might have said some things that are not exactly where it turned out or what they feel it is, but so for that you're telling me that you were arrested. That wow. Okay. Now this is bringing us up now to something that happened recently, and I reached out to you because I heard it through the grapevine and really wanted to know if this was serious. That lately, you said your case is coming up in September.
Yes, I went to court and the magistrate recused himself, and so they sent it from Kingston to California for the 13th of September. And
so it's getting ready to come up, and you have recently been charged with 10 more cases, 10 more charges?
I got 10 more summons from the police, speaking basically around the same issues from North Leeward, Central Leeward, and South Leeward.
Wow. So they arrested you and they give you how many charges at the first time? One charge. And
6 months after they arrested me.
Is that unusual that if you're charging somebody that you would charge them for one thing and before the court hearing comes up you dump some of the charges on? Is that unusual? Is this standard stuff in St. Vincent?
It's unusual unless, I don't know. That's kind of unusual. Because
in your territory, and I live in New York, so I can't take something for granted.
I had to travel. I had to get my doctor to prove to them that I had to travel. So I spent the night in the jail. And next morning, when they released me on the strength of my doctor's letter, because my doctor had to intervene to say, no, you all cannot hold this man. This man is leaving here. He has to go and get medical attention. So I went away, and then I went to the States, which I was booked since about 6 months before that to go to the States, which I told the police, I said, if you all do due diligence, you would see that I was booked to leave here and come back on the 5th of January. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand. I have all my investments, I have no flight risk. Why are you all doing this to me? So eventually, with the doctor's letter, they let me go. I was home for 6 months before the first charge came.
Oh,
so they never charged me.
So they never charged you the first time? They just arrested you?
6 months after.
And you actually spent the night in jail with no charges. And then 6 months after, let me just make sure I got this straight. 6 months after you were charged with the first charge of inciting or something to that effect. Yeah. And then your case was postponed.
And disturbance of the public peace.
Okay. And then your case was postponed to September 13th. And as that, we're now in August 2016.
8 months after, I got 10 more charges.
10 more charges recently, just last week. What piled on to that? And so again, I ask you, is this a typical thing? Have you seen, listen, we are not that different in age, you know what I mean? So, but I didn't grow up there. I left St. Vincent when I was 20 years of age. I've been in these parts for most of my life. So, I don't try to look at St. Vincent with an American lens, okay? So, I'll give them that, okay? But you lived there most of your life, correct?
Yes,
okay.
All my life.
And I've seen governments there make mistakes. I've seen governments make mistakes. But is this government like an exceptionally tyrannical government? What is going on there? That people are just arrested for foolishness. And let me remind the audience that the Prime Minister made it into office right after he protested peacefully. Well, I assume it's peacefully, but let me just say this. I remember my sister having a sick baby. And she could only get to Lomans at my aunt's house and had to turn back with that sick baby. Could not get treatment for her son. There was report of a baby being born in a car. Now this is a country with 110,000 people. So we're not talking a big population. So he did all of that to get himself in office. And he was not arrested. Now this same person who claimed that he had turned away from his love or his tendency towards communism and that was a youthful thing, and blah 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 blah. He's now in office, and if someone speaks up or someone protests peacefully, they're arrested. You go on the internet, something that I don't see how they can prove that somebody actually, people hijack your account all the time, and you're arrested when you're leaving after you've been allowed to walk around there for 5 weeks. Now, in your case, you're arrested, not charged, spend a night in jail. Then you're charged 6 months later with a charge, and now the case is about to come up. You just got another 10 more charges. I'm not a student of the law, but I'm just kind of something about that seems very troubling. St. Vincent almost sounds like a dangerous place to live in terms of freedom of speech and democracy.
I could explain to you in my own opinion what has been happening. Is that the present Prime Minister, his orientation is a communistic orientation. Mm-hmm. He's a Marxist. He said, out his own words, the man he admired most in his life that ever walked this earth is Fidel Castro.
And they're good friends. And he was friends with Gaddafi, right? Was he friends with Gaddafi? Venezuela.
Chavez out of Venezuela and now
Maduro. So these are like his buddies.
And so that's the orientation. And whilst he may have gotten into office by creating disturbances, they call it the roadblock revolution. He brags that he is the author of protests in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And
but now he's trying to stifle it.
Well, because he don't believe in it. And what happened, because he's legally trained and he's very cunning, he takes the very laws that are there, which were never meant to be abused, and he manipulates them in a particular way to do a lot of things that are not democratic. They may seem democratic, but morally they are not. And the thing is that we have to put up with that kind of behavioral pattern because there's enough support. I wouldn't say majority. After his first 5 years in office, he has never gained popularity. He had 56% of support in 2001. He went down to 53 and he is now just 50.9% support. So his popularity has never grown. But there's enough persons on the base of the political party to allow for these things to happen. Because our people are very ignorant to the facts that surround them. And if you notice, places like Cuba, Venezuela, was one of the richest oil-rich country, is in tatters right now. People are starving, an economic crisis. It tells you of the ideology that rules the roost in these circumstances. And you marvel to think, how could people follow these leaders? But basically it is because so many persons are poor that they depend on the government handouts and believe somehow that the government is doing something for them. Mm-hmm. The issue of education and health in Cuba is the pillars in which they brag, or they bragging rights to say that they are a government for the people. But if you're a government for the people and you have one family running a country for 60 years without the hope of anybody else ever having, and you want to establish that same kind of scenario in St. Vincent, where you use any means to stay in office so that you can create a dynasty, because obviously his son is the heir apparent to the throne of politics in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is Camilo Gonzalez. And
who was the former ambassador to the United Nations, correct?
Right, and coincidentally, Camilo name is the second name of Shishabago, which is a revolutionary out of Cuba during Castro time.
Well, let me ask you this. Oh, interesting. Let me ask you this. Now, Camilo was born in the United States. I think he might have well, I think he was raised in Jamaica a little bit, but he's a Jamaican. The mom is Jamaican. Now,
And he grew up in St. Vincent too.
oh, he spent some time there. Okay. Again, I left there a long time, so I'm trying to get you to help me clarify some things.
He used to be in my bed.
Okay, so aren't you guys related or something?
Second cousins, we are. I'm to right. Yeah.
So you're his cousin. So and this is the treatment. I'm trying to understand that. But here's the thing. Now the New York heat is zapping my mind a little bit. But so maybe I'm thinking a little crazy here. But how did St. Vincent, a country that I spent 20 years of my life in, that was so democratic, outspoken, people had total freedom of speech, could protest, teachers protesting and what have you, Calypsonians, could sing songs about the government, the epitome of democracy. How were those people reduced? What is the process by which those people were reduced to the level that they are right now? Fair. And do you think
what has happened to Ayman? What has happened to Lucid King? What has happened to all the people who would stand up and speak? Colin Graham and all who are arrested.
Do you think poverty as well? Do you think poverty, bringing the country down in poverty where people are dependent and paid a part?
Of course, because the destruction of the economy is, you see, if government controls the economy, government is the employer, government dish out whatever work is available, we have destroyed our agriculture. And let me explain to you this. Agriculture during the New Democratic Party's tenure used to generate $250 million per year. Mm-hmm. Tourism was behind by 25 million. Tourism reached to the point it surpassed that, reached 300 million. Today, tourism earns about 170 million and agriculture 38 million.
Wow.
So we have lost $2.5 billion in the last 10 years from agriculture.
Because we were a farming community, if nothing else. Vincentians fed themselves. We have very rich soil and we fed ourselves, and so that is struggling.
The scenario is that Venezuela came up with this Petrocaribe scenario, which they give oil for social. It's a whole control scenario that selling what a so-called democratic socialism, which really is communism, that the Chavez and this Petrocaribe and the Alba grouping that came up with this, with a new form of colonialization, but a new form of communization. Mm-hmm. And what has happened is that the government had its hands on a lot of oil money through the Petrocaribe deal, where if oil was above $60 a barrel, government would only pay on $50 a barrel, and the rest would go to a loan at 2% over a 20-year period, which would give the government's money to spend at will. So the government was able to take care of a lot of things, even through struggles, because they had that extra money. So they paid no or scant regard to agriculture, because agriculture creates independence to the farmers.
Okay.
And so you would have a voice to retaliate or to resist the kinds of implementation of this socialist type of government that is now entrenched in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
So you feel that it's injecting fear and through intimidation, bringing the people down, not supporting the things that made people independent, and bringing them down to the dependent on the government, is why the country is in this state that it's in right now, where people feel powerless. They're not speaking out. They're suffering, but they're not speaking out.
Exactly. And then when the election comes, you hand out a lot of basic materials. I don't know if you understand the human being in terms of our anatomy and the way when we eat. If you're very hungry and suddenly you get a plate of food and you eat it very hurriedly, you get delusional. Mm-hmm. Because all the blood rushes from your brains down to your stomach for digesting purposes. Mm-hmm. And at that period of time, you don't think clearly. because you don't have the capacity to do that, because the all the blood is down into the stomach. And so ironically, or if you draw that parallel, when people are made poor, and he said, the Prime Minister said that there is a new class of people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's called the indigent poor.
No, bear with me here. We have always had poor, okay? Follow me. But I am not aware that St. Vincent, we ever had indigent poor. And certainly not anything to this level that I'm seeing there now. And when a Prime Minister would talk about that, about how much people is on public assistance, I heard one report where they were saying that he was speaking about how many people on public assistance. And I thought, does that not say that people are struggling? That's not something to be proud of.
Not at all, because if people had the means to work and the means to earn, then government wouldn't have to put out that kind of assistance. But it is the ideology of the communist world. It is no difference in Russia. There is no difference in Cuba. There is no difference in all these communist-run countries. That what you do is everything is state control. The paramountcy of the party is above government, because the party and the government becomes one. There is no separation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the ideology that is now entrenched in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Well, but a lot of people don't